Hello YouTube! I did intend on uploading a poem to my channel today that I've been working on, but the video is taking me much longer to put together than I imagined. It's the poem. It didn't want to end for some reason, so it turned out to be 2 pages long, so now I'm sort of collating images to put into the video. It will probably be up sometime tomorrow, hopefully. But until then, I'm owing on an old staple, and I'm going for a nice classic Transformers review. This is, I know, it's a bit of a stinker today. This is Generation 1 Roadgrabber, and Roadgrabber came about in the latter days of Generation 1, around 1988 I believe, when I was 4 years old. And he is a pretender vehicle. Now, there were loads of pretenders out at this time. There were more of the humanoid pretenders, which were all largely shit, although there were interesting characters. You had Bludgeon, Octopunch and Stranglehold from that period, and they're all wonderful characters but shit toys. It's a great shame. And then you had the really gimmicky ones like the pretender vehicles, the ultra pretenders, which were like pretender vehicles but also had one of the more standard pretender shells that came with them. And the more standard pretender shell could usually transform into a vehicle for the inner robot. Completely insane. And then you had mega pretenders like Thunderwing, whose pretender shells could transform into vehicles with which the inner robot could link to form a bigger vehicle. Gimmicks, gimmicks, gimmicks. That was the name of the game at this point. Anyway, Roadgrabber. Interesting enough character. He's, like most Decepticons, an utter sadist. There are graphic descriptions in his universe entry, actually, how he likes to follow Autobots across the battlefield, blow out their legs with his guns, and then roll over them, crushing them to death. Nice. Unfortunately, he's deathly afraid, completely neurotic in fact, about suffering pain or injury himself. He's got a complete aversion to pain, and as such he spends a great deal of his time inside of his pretender shell where he's safe and shielded, and he won't come out, even when it's to his benefit to do so, like for when he needs to refuel, which can often lead to some very serious deficits on his part. As for the toy itself, well, the pretender shell's pretty good actually. As the pretender shells go, it's not bad at all. It's a very big, solid car. It rolls along rather nicely. Oh, listen to that. Oh, those axles are so rusty. It's old, this is. I've had this since I was around 4 or 5 years old. The colours aren't bad. They're very, very garish, as all the Transformers from this period are. Pink, purple and blue. That said, it does look very, very Decepticon. You would definitely know that this is a Decepticon, even if you couldn't see the rather prominent but peeling Decepticon stickers down the side. But yes, I rather like this pretender shell. It's not bad at all. It's very, very, very dusty and dirty, and suffered a lot of wear and tear through play. I used to play with this in the garden and whatnot when I was a kid. It also has a gimmick in this mode. If you roll the back wheels, those guns have got what was called a pom-pom action. They bob up and down and have a sort of machine gun thing going on, which is quite nice, really. I mean, it's a nice conservative little gimmick, and I rather like that. The problems start with the inner robot. The inner robot is your typical... In fact, it's even worse than your typical pretender. The early stage pretenders from around the 1987 era are actually a lot better than this guy. I'll show you. The opening the pretender shell is fairly simple. Just pop it up. And there's Roadgrabber. Flip out his arms. Oh dear God. As you can see, he's a very generic and rather undetailed robot. He's your typical pretender. His head is somewhat out of scale with the rest of him. It's marginally too big. Mine, for some reason, I don't know why I did that. I must have done that when I was a kid. I painted the eyes silver for some bizarre reason, as kids are wont to do. Also, there's something rather odd about this toy for a Generation 1. The plastic is shit. It's absolutely shocking. There are hairline fractures here and here at the joints of his arms, and they're going to break in half one day. In fact, most of the Roadgrabbers I've seen are missing arms or have bits that have been chipped off or flaked off due to transformation. Talking of the transformation, I'm not even going to bother speeding up the video for this because it's pathetic. It is one of the worst transformations you're ever likely to see in any Transformer ever. Yeah. Whoa. That's basically it. You can take the guns off the back of the car and affix them to it to make it look marginally more convincing. But even then, I mean, good God, it's supposed to be a jet or a spaceship or something? It's hard to tell because it looks like what it is, which is the robot folded up. It's hideous. Beyond comprehension. It looks like nothing. Terrible mode. And very typical of the Pretenders, I'm afraid. The most basic transformations imaginable. Awful bit of work, Hasbro. And also, once again, this is a bit of a Freudian transformer. In fact, this is one of the more prominent ones. He has what you could call a very real cockpit. Yeah. Nice going, Hasbro. Now, he also has what they call on the instructions a third mode. And it's a third mode in the same way that the Beast Wars Transmetal vehicle things are third modes, i.e. not. They call it a battle chariot. What you do is take the Pretender shell, and you can flip this part down so you get a good look at the inner detail, and that's rather good actually. It's got a lovely little console on the inside that has all sorts of buttons and monitors and all sorts of things. That's kind of cool. Then you just take these, fix them on like that for some reason. Yeah, you can see where this is going already, can't you? Then you take Roadgrabber, and there's a little peg there on the inside of the Pretender shell, and he's got little holes in the bottom of his feet. You just peg him on there. Actually, put his arms up first, because he's not going to stand in there otherwise. Peg him on in there. It's almost an embarrassment, this mode, really. And that's it. He's not supposed to roll forward like that. That's his battle chariot mode. I mean, it's pathetic. Why bother? Why bother, Hasbro? I mean, I'm sure I may have got some enjoyment out of that when I was a kid, but the thing is, when you're a kid, you'll get enjoyment out of it if it turns into a blancmange. You don't care. It's a toy. That's it. That's all that matters. It is a toy, and you will play with it. From a collector's perspective, he's so hard to recommend. The Pretender shell's alright. I like the Pretender shell a lot, but oh God, this is a bad transformer. You don't hear me say it very often. I do have great affection for these things, but this... No, I'm sorry, I cannot be enthusiastic about this. Other than to say, the Pretender shell is probably one of the best out there. It looks really good, it's got a cool gimmick, it's nice and heavy, it's got loads of detail. So if you want to buy it for the Pretender shell, or if you want to buy the Pretender shell separately, then go ahead, but the inner robot... Ooh. And it's not like Bludgeon, who came about in the same era. Bludgeon is worth buying because he's such an interesting character. Roadgrabber hardly appears in any continuity. He gets his face completely smashed in by Thunderwing in the IDW's Stormbringer comic. But that's it. That's all you can say for him. Very difficult to recommend.